So for our growth and for our journey.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Marius. I come from Romania. I also met you in Rishikesh, and Krishna wanted me to receive a copy of your book, Gita for the CEOs, 20 minutes ago.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Amrika gave it to me with a beautiful note. And
Okay.
I'm very grateful, and I think it's a sign that I have something to take from here.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So what I'll do briefly is just introduce our wonderful speaker today. Chaitanya Charan is one of the most prolific speakers and writers in our spiritual communities all around the world, very famous. He's very deep insights, and he's written many, many books. I know some of you have Gita for the CEO. He's written books about the mind, insights into the Bhagavad Gita, and he's done this prolifically for many years and enlightened so many people around the world. So we're very grateful, very glad to have his precious time with the group. I know he's going to speak for the next hour or so, and if I understand from Rick correctly, it's going to be on lessons from Radha Swami's. And I know he has a book also. You have a book that's in the bookshop, and it's a new book, so I just saw it a few days ago. And actually, what I'll do is I'll hand over to him to explain more about that. I think he'll do it better justice. Thank you very much. Prabhu, we'll hand over to you.
Thank you. So it's wonderful to be here with all of you today. Let's begin by taking 3 deep breaths, and then we'll utter Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then we'll begin. So wherever you're seated, you can close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. Now together we'll utter Om, and you can draw it out. You can draw it Om, like we'll draw it out as long as we can comfortably. Together. The word is Bhagavate, Bhagavate. Last word is Vasudevaya, Vasudevaya. Once more, 3 deep breaths, and you can open your eyes. Thank you. You can open your eyes. So, since Ken told me about this group, I was thinking about what to speak. And today morning I met one American seeker who had come here, and the first time visiting, so we were talking. And he said that, now I feel this is being here is a delightful form of escapism. So, it's a delightful form of escapism. So then I asked him, what do you mean? Are you being critical, or are you being positive in that statement? Because escapist is not always a positive word. He says, I feel very happy being here in a place like this, but I feel this is not real life. Real life is much more messy, much more complicated. And I feel as if when I come to places like this, I am running away from real life. And when you come to places like this, you feel as if you like to stay here itself. But then am I running away from life? So, now this question that, so is it, when we practice spiritual life, is it a form of escapism? That's what I'll try to discuss. And I've written about 30 books. The latest book I wrote was about Radhanath Swami Maharaj. It's called his Life Lessons and Legacy. So I'll start with a couple of interactions I had with him, and then I'll address this topic specifically. So when this project was still developing and I had met Maharaj, I asked him, Maharaj, what was your vision for this project when you started it? So he said that spirituality for people who are, you could say, some of these are my words, but I'm drawing the whole idea. Now there are two levels at which people turn towards spirituality. He said, there are some people for whom spirituality is a goal transformer. There is a higher purpose to life and you want to pursue that life. These are not my words, I put those words, but that was his concept. There are some people who are already on a spiritual search. They want to know what is the ultimate meaning of life. And for them, spirituality gives them that direction. And spirituality as a goal transformer. But for most people, when they turn towards spirituality, it is as a shock absorber. Now, shock absorber, again, he didn't use these words. He said basically, people feel that life is frustrating, life is exhausting, life is sometimes heartbreaking, and it can be one brutal shock, or it can be 1,000 irritating blows, which eventually take us to a breaking point. And then at that time, we may turn away. So broadly, there are these two demographics. People who want to find some higher meaning, and people who just feel drained out with life. And we could say that this is always going to be a larger demographic. This is going to be a relatively smaller demographic. But we need to address both people. So in general, so he said when we started the Govardhan Eco Village, the point of it was that many people, he didn't use this word escapism, many people feel that your spirituality, okay, that's your preference, that's your practice, your culture, your tradition, your choice. How does it make any difference to the world? So if we can demonstrate sustainable development, if we can demonstrate eco-friendly living, if we can demonstrate harmonious community relationships, and not just demonstrate in the sense of exhibiting it for show, but rather seeing how that is a manifestation of a worldview and a philosophy, then that has a very transformative impact. Now, so if you see this particular project, it has three distinct parts to it, many aspects, but three distinct parts to it. One is it's called Eco Village, so it's the eco-friendly part. Everything, all the water is recycled, there's a high level of recycling happening, and you have probably seen those things over here in your previous visits also. The other is, it's a resort. So the resort part is primarily for those who want a break. And the escapism is not always a bad thing. Now, the world can become too much for everyone. And we need to get away from the world. See, there's one thing is getting into the world and the world getting into us. We sooner or later have to get into the world because we have roles to play in it. But like sometimes we have to put our head into something. Okay, how to deal with this person, how to solve this problem. but we also use this word, he or she has got into your head. That means what has happened is they are sabotaging or harming us from inside. So now what happens is, we need to get into the world, but not get into the world so much that the world gets into us. The world gets into us, then we get overwhelmed by it. Then we are not able to function properly. So at one level, for most people, we get too much into the world and they want to get away from it. And you can get away from the world in various ways. You get away from the world by just watching movies or just surfing mindlessly on social media. You can get away from the world by intoxication, alcohol or drugs or whatever. If you can consider, we all need to get away from the world. Because otherwise, because if the world gets into us, it's what happens. See, if get away from the world, why do we need it? Because if I am here, in one sense, I need to get into the world because I have things to do. But the problem is that when the world gets into me, I don't know how to depict it now, maybe you could put it this way, that this is my consciousness and the world gets into me. Then what happens is that we get overwhelmed by it and we can't function. So this is necessary, but this is not. So for all of us, you may say that I need a break. If you don't get a break, then we will get a breakdown. Right? So we do need a break. And different people get away from the world in different ways. You may have heard about these three gunas: sattva, rajas and tamas. Isn't it? So goodness, passion and ignorance. Now, yes,
Gunas, just in case people are not.
okay, sure. Okay, sattva, rajas, tamas, these are basically talked about in the Bhagavad Gita and in the broad Indian tradition, that these are subtle forces of nature that affect our consciousness. You could say they're almost like gears with which our body-mind machine works. Like a car moves in a particular gear and it can change the gear. But once the car is in a particular gear, it will move in a particular way. So basically, without getting into the gunas too much at this point, the point is that if we are in tamas is mode of darkness, lethargy. Here escapism may be in the form of intoxication. So we try to run away from our life by getting into intoxication. Now somebody in rajas, they may try to get away from life by, just as there's alcoholism, there's workaholism also. So work can be a way of doing something meaningful, but work can also be a way by which we try to get away from the meaninglessness of our life. Then, or it can be in shopaholism. Shop and show off what all I've got. So there are different ways. Entertainment is a big way in which you might get away. The most entertainment now in the mode of goodness. Mode of goodness is more about sattva, rajas, tamas. We could say this is more about clarity. This is more about activity. And this is more about apathy. So clarity, activity and apathy. So now when you apathy, I just don't care for the world. Apathy. So I get into intoxication. When I have activity, I will do this, I'll do that, I'll do that. Then we want power, we want to get a lot of money and then show off how much money I have. Now, when we are having sattva, we may get away by getting into books, read some wisdom. Broadly, we can say wisdom. Or we can get into meditation, spirituality. So, while everybody tries to get away from the world in some way or the other, because the world tends to overwhelm us. So, now the question is that after we get away from the world and then we come back to the world, we can't get away from the world very long. Just as we come for a retreat here, you can't be here forever. Of course, you can be if you want, but we'll talk about that part later. But broadly speaking, some people, we watch movies. People may get intoxicated, No, okay, after that, real life is still there and we have to face it. But the question is, which kind of getting away from the world is actually making us better or which is making us worse? So intoxication, it may help us get away from the world, but then when we get back to the world, things have not become better. And we ourselves generally not become better. We have a hangover, we wasted a lot of money and we might get addicted to it. So at one level, getting away from the world and getting back to the world, that is the normal way everyone functions. Everybody has their own ways to get away from the world. Somebody might go for a nature walk, which would be, I would say, much better than, say, just surfing mindlessly on the phone or taking some doing some drugs or whatever. So we all need to get away from the world. So in that sense, even if we say spirituality is a form of escapism, it is a delightful form of escapism. Not just delightful in the sense of you get pleasure while we're doing it, but also it's rejuvenating. We feel energized. We feel more as if we have mentally and physically almost become refreshed by it. So that's one way of looking at it. So this is definitely a place for that. So people come here and out of curiosity you can observe a different way of living. You can observe how being close to nature is so nice. Observe how spirituality can make life so much more peaceful and joyful. And then we take what we can. And then we go back to our lives. So then in this case, it is a shock absorber. And that's good, but spirituality also has something like while I said a funnel effect, that most people who come will come for this shock absorber kind of effect. But from there, some people will come to a level of a gold transformer. This will be less, but they will be there. So now, if you have read Radhanath Maharaj Swami's Journey Home and Journey Within, you may have noticed that he started off, you could say, in the search of God, in search of ultimate meaning. Felt that there has to be something more to life, which was drawing him on a quest. So when we say escapism, like the idea is, there is my real life, there is my job, my family, my health issues, this, that, and then this is escapism. I get away from it all. But then what do we mean by real life? And can we carry the spirituality and carry the higher connection, the enrichment that you experienced back to where we go? So that's what, at one level, as I said, there are three parts to this. One is the resort part, the other is the eco-friendly part, and third is the devotional bhakti part. We have the temple, we have the architecture of the temple, then we have the various replicas of the holy place in Vrindavan, we have the Govardhan Hill. So in that sense, what Maharaj, when he started this project, he said that we want it to be natural, comfortable and spiritual. So natural part is the eco-friendliness, the comfortable part is the resort, and the spiritual part is the replica of Vrindavan that is there. So now the question is that we all are looking for some meaning in life. Now at one level, life can seem very meaningless, especially one of the easiest ways to strengthen our conviction that life is meaningless is to read the news. That, like, if you read the news, okay, this person did this and that happened over there and that happened over there. So Times of India is one of the top newspaper in India. So they were the first in India to start a spiritual column. They call it the speaking tree. I have contributed there many times also. So I wrote to the editor and asked, what inspired you to start this column? So she gave a very revealing reply. She said most of the news is about three things: death, destruction, and deceit. Almost all the news is about this. There's a social critic who said that news is all about the same things happening to different people. Now, this is not a criticism of news itself. We have to be aware of the world to some degree. But the point I'm making is that this happened here and that happened there and that happened there. And most of the time what catches eyeballs, what works as clickbait is the most controversial, the most outrageous, the most shock-inducing kind of news. So if we are that's what I talk about, the world gets into us. So for us to be able to have some sense of meaning in life, if somebody is just glued to the news, this happened here and that happened there and that happened there, it's very easy to feel that life is just meaningless. So I'm talking at a much more, not just at a psychological level, but I'm talking at a philosophical level over here. At a psychological level, there are lots of researches about how constantly being on social media can have its own problems. You may have heard this word called doom scrolling. Scrolling and doom scrolling is where, oh, this happened there, that happened there. So that can make a person very negative. But I'm not talking about a psychological level, I'm talking at a philosophical level. That when we just keep hearing things, this is meaningless and that is meaningless and that is meaningless and that this thing happened and that thing happened and that thing happened, and there's very little sense of it, then we can start thinking that the whole of life is meaningless. And one of the worst thing that happens because of the news is, now when I'm talking about the news, and what I'm talking about is, earlier I said we get too much into the world, then the world gets into us. So what happens is, if we start feeling that life is meaningless, and that is bad enough, but then after that we start feeling, whatever I will do, what difference is it going to make? Now, there's a bomb blast here, there are these power hungry politicians doing this over there, and there is there are these big corporates, big pharma or big military industrial complex or whatever, they are doing this and they are doing that. And then we first lose a sense of meaning, then we feel as if I have no agency, that my agency has no value, that what can I do? My action what difference is it going to make? It's not going to make any difference, so why do anything at all? So we lose that sense of agency. And once we lose our sense of agency, then we lose a sense of purpose. And these three things, this is what the last part I'll talk about, that it's a sense of a map for life. That does the world have a sense of meaning? Do my actions matter? And then, is there something I can do that will matter the most? So it's almost like a three-way connected loop. Does life make sense? Does what I do make a difference? And then, do I have some purpose for my life? So now, within the bhakti philosophy, within the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, there is the concept of Maya. You may have heard this word Maya. Now, the word Maya literally means illusion, that which is not. But one of the aspects of Maya is that everything tends to seem meaningless. Our vision of any higher meaning in life is obscured. So, I am alone trying to do something of value, and what is the big deal about it? What difference is it going to make? So so this question about what difference is it going to make. So now I'm moving from this first part I talked about, the shock absorber, to I'm moving towards the idea of the goal transformer. So when Anath Maharaj wrote this book, Journey Home first, at that time I already written a few books. So he gave me that book before it was published, and he said, you go through it and tell me what you think about it. So then I did that, and then I told him that, he asked me, he says, the stories were remarkable, but he said what struck me the most was the tone of the book. I said the tone, it is not that you are a teacher speaking to students, that is the tone in which I had heard in speak classes. This is almost like a seeker sharing experiences with others, with friends basically. So Maharaj looked at me and he said that, I appreciate your appreciation. So he said that, he said that this is the tone which you need to reach out to thoughtful people. Now there are people who do not necessarily accept authority very easily. And for them, what is required, now again, some of these words are my words, but the concept came from him. He says, and so the way I understood is that there are some things which we may accept based on authority. So for example, those who are born in India, for them this may seem like Indian spirituality. This is our culture, our tradition, they may take it up. So this is what our ancestors did, this is what our parents did. So some level of, where in the hierarchical culture, things go on by authority. But he said there is authority and there is authenticity. So authenticity is where what has worked for us. What has worked for us and how much we embody that. When that is shown, then that attracts others. So that is what Maharaj said that this is what I am trying to convey through this book. So then soon after that he started writing The Journey Within. It was published eventually much later, after several years. But when he was writing this Journey Within, at that time, he sent me his copy of his book, and he sent me an email and he said, you go through it and if you have any suggestions, let me know. So then I was quite excited to have the opportunity of service. So he told me at that time that if you are writing this book, then if you are going to edit this book, don't think of me as your guru and as your disciple. You are my disciple. He said, this is one author sharing his thoughts about a book with another author. So then I gave a lot of suggestions and I didn't get any reply from Maharaj. 1 week went, 2 weeks went, 3 weeks went. I thought maybe Maharaj has got annoyed with me. And then I was in Pune at that time. I came to Mumbai. And then I met him after a Sunday class he had given. So he said, I got you. He was very grave. And normally he's very cheerful and very warm. He says, I got your email. I went through all your suggestions carefully. And still there was no smile on his face. Very grave. They were very good. And he said, and now it is your karma to implement them all. So then he said, if you give suggestions, you have to implement them. So then I went through the whole thing. Then I got a lot of time with him at that time. I went through the whole book. And editing can be quite a rigorous process. And there are, quite often, editors and authors have a kind of a love-hate relationship. So, because in one sense, while the purpose for both is the same, to get the message out, the process for editing and writing is almost opposite. Writing is more of a creative process. Hey, this idea is great, that idea is great, that idea is great. Editing is a critical process. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't work over here. This doesn't flow from this to that. So it's almost like the purpose is the same, but the process is opposite. Sometimes it can be very tense, but he made it a very cheerful process for me. Very, very memorable and very cheerful. So this whole idea of finding meaning in life, one of the things that he mentioned to me, that when he had written a particular passage about bhakti, so I had suggested that one of the things he had told me is, there are some stories, you can tell me those stories and I can add them in the book. So I had suggested one story about Hanuman. If you know about Hanuman, Hanuman is a character in the Ramayana, it's a beloved epic in India about bhakti. And he is a great devotee and he does adventurous things in the service of Lord Ram, who is the Supreme descended to this world. And during that passage which he had written, so I suggested we can have this story. So he said, okay, you come back after an hour. Now we had to give the book for publishing, and he was in a quite of a deadline. So I was surprised. I asked his assistant, does he have any urgent meetings? He said, no. Then after an hour I came back. Maharaj, he was typing something on the laptop, and then I asked him what happened. Then he said, you might have been wondering why I asked you to come after 1 hour. I said, yes, Maharaj, that thought did cross my mind. He said that, you know, in the temple, have you been to Radha Gopinath temple also? You have been to the Chowpatty?
No.
Flower festival?
No. Only one.
Some of us are.
That's okay. So this time you're not there for the flower festival. Okay. So anyway, so in that temple, we have the main altar where we have Radha Krishna. On the opposite side, we have a small image of Hanuman. He's also considered a great devotee. So we also pray to him. So Maharaj said that I had gone there to pray to Hanuman so that I would get the right words to convey the message of bhakti, to glorify his bhakti and to convey the message of bhakti. So now for me, writing, as I said, is a creative activity, writing is an intellectual activity, writing is literary activity. But for him, what struck me is that it's more of a devotional activity. So what do I mean by devotional over here? This is where I link it back to the point of meaning in life. That if we consider that there is a higher reality, there is a divinity, we know the divinity by the name Krishna. So what we have is a gift from the divine to us. And what we do with what we have is our gift to the divine. What we do with what we have. So broadly, if we consider this as a cycle, what we have and what we do with what we have. So one is a gift given to us, and the other is a gift given by us. And gift to us and a gift from us. So Maharaj explains in that book that this essentially is the mood of seva. So for us, this idea of is life meaningful? So for him, he's a very evolved spiritualist, he's a saintly person, he is a good writer. But still for him, when he wanted to speak spiritual truths, it's more like I want to connect with the higher region, higher reality, and become an instrument for that higher reality. And this is where the point gets linked, that the more we connect with the divine, the more we connect with Krishna, as we know the divine by the name in this particular in the bhakti tradition. So the more we start seeing that I have been given some gifts, and then I want to utilize those gifts. So life can seem meaningless. Going back to that, this gold transformer, as I said. Gold transformer, spirituality is a gold transformer. What does it mean? There's two distinct aspects to it, with which, say if there is a river, and the river moves towards the ocean. So like that, in the bhakti tradition, the ultimate purpose of life, the ultimate enduring meaning of life is that we link with the divine in a mood of love. So we are all souls, we are spiritual beings, and we are like that river which is flowing towards the ocean. So of course the river, the water in the river, each drop has its own individuality, but it unites with the ocean. Now the important thing is, while there is an ultimate purpose ultimate or universal purpose. All rivers, their purpose is to reach to the ocean. But there is also an individual and intermediate purpose. That is, while the river is going towards the ocean, the river can give life nourishing water to hundreds and thousands and even millions of life forms. And each river can do it in a different way. Each river finds its own path, and while going along that path, it does good to others. It provides life to others. So each one of us is like that life, like that river. So we all have certain gifts. Those could be in terms of our abilities, those could be in terms of our interests, they could be in terms of our resources, and we use them in a mood of service. So yes, the overall world may seem highly meaningless, but within that, each one of us can create our own pockets of meaning, our own islands of meaning. The ocean is turbulent, and how the ocean is moving can seem chaotic, but we can create our own islands where we have our own meaning. And there are times in the history of the universe when we see things happening meaningfully. We see patterns in the universe also. But those may sometimes be seen, sometimes may not be seen. So that vision of bhakti, that vision of service, that where I am right now, from there I can start contributing and I can make a positive difference using my abilities, using my gifts, using my resources. So that is how the idea that the inspiration that we get from coming to spiritual places like this, it is not just that we run away from the world, but that we rejuvenate ourselves. So how does this work? There is sometimes when we come to places like this, we are able to do better self-observation. Self-observation to understand, what are the gifts that I have? What are the things which I have been given? Most of the times, rather than looking at the gifts which we have, we are looking at the gifts that others have. And it's like, suppose there is a feast. There's a wedding feast, or there is a party where there's a feast, some ceremony. And everybody has a feast. But if I am looking at what he has in his plate and what she has in her plate and what she has in her plate, and I can't taste or enjoy what is there in my plate. There might be something like sandesh. Have you heard of sandesh? Yeah. It's an Indian delicacy. There will be sandesh in my plate and it will taste like sand to me. Why? Because I am only looking at what others have, not what I myself have. So going back to the cycle here, what are the gifts that I have? We observe ourselves to see what gifts I have. And then what are the ways in which I can utilize these gifts? What opportunities do I have in my surroundings? So it could be my family, it could be my community, it could be the whole world is becoming like a global village. It could be in the world that I am in. How can I contribute over there? And finally, we do this in a mood of service to the divine. So, and we act in this way. So, the idea is that this seva, it's not just, well, there is an attitude of philanthropy, there is an attitude of altruism, but it is much deeper than that. It is a part of it places us in the cosmic fabric of meaning. That there is, I see the gifts that I have, I see the opportunities that I have, and then I see the contribution that I can make. I see the difference that I can make. It may be a small difference, but whatever level of difference I can make. So each one of us, if if our spirituality can help us to better appreciate our gifts, to better appreciate the opportunities we have, and among the many opportunities we have, what is the way I can make a difference? So, as you may notice, I like to speak in terms of acronyms. So, this is how God becomes a part of our life. Look for our gifts, look for our opportunities, and look for the differences we can make in our life. So, the gifts are given to us by God, and depending on how we observe the world around us, observe our situations, we see opportunities. And then there are some areas we'll succeed in making a difference. Like then the river is moving toward the ocean. The river water may say, hey, this is a good way. It starts moving along that way. But then it encounters a block. Then if it encounters a block, it may move left, it may move right, it may move from above, it may move from below. So it will find its own way. Now, the last 30 years I have been a monk, and last 12 years I have been traveling across the world on speaking engagements. So I asked Radhanath Maharaj once that when I give talks, people tell me that my talks are very intellectual and they find it difficult to understand them. So I told him that I opened my heart and said, and it's not that I'm intentionally intellectual. It's like, that's just the way I think. I love words and concepts, and that's what populates my mental world. So, most people like stories. I find stories make me intellectually unemployed. What do you do with the story? If there's a story, I need some kind of a deep analysis of the story. Without that, so I have a colleague. His name is Gopal Prabhu. You might have known him. He's a very humorous person, and he's very celebrated on social media. The top spiritual teachers in India. So he's also a disciple, a student of Radhanath Maharaj. So Radhanath Maharaj told me that, if Gopal Prabhu tried to be intellectual like you, it wouldn't work. If you try to be humorous like him, it won't work. Then he said, as far as I am concerned, he said, I am neither intellectual like you, nor humorous like him. So I told him, Maharaj, whatever abilities we have, it is by your grace, by your Krishna's mercy coming through you. So Maharaj was grave and he said, Krishna has blessed me with a deep concern for others. And with that concern, whatever I seem to speak, whatever I speak, it seems to inspire others. So he said, you don't have to change yourself. If you are intellectual, be an intellectual. But increase your concern for others. Your concern for others. Increase your concern for others. So I found that a very striking instruction, but then it was also not very specific. Okay, how do I increase the concern for others? So, sometimes when you get guidance, it's almost like guidance comes in two distinct ways. Initially, the guidance may come in the form of steps. Steps means, okay, 1, 2, 3, do this, do this, do this. Like a parent, a mother is trying to teach a child to walk, a father is trying to teach his child to cycle. Okay, you move like this, move like this. So guidance comes as steps. But as we grow older, guidance doesn't come as steps, it comes as seeds. What does a seed mean? That a seed has great potentiality, but it is for us to develop its potentiality. Okay, what seed is it? Where do I sow it in the ground? What kind of nourishment do I give it? And then how does it grow? So what I did was, I decided, okay, increase the concern for others. So I decided that, okay, I'll hear some of my own classes from a critical perspective. Like when I'm giving a class, like I talked about in writing, there is the creative and the critical side. So when I'm speaking, I'm more in the creative mode. So I decided I'll switch myself to the level of the audience. And if this were somebody else's talk, how would I critically review it? And I went through about 5 to 10 of what I consider to be my best talks. And I found that I had to pay 100% attention to understand what I was saying. Although they were my own talks. What happened was that, okay, how is this point connected with this point? Why am I going in this direction? Some of the points were familiar, some I had forgotten. But if forgotten is matter, but it's just that. Then I realized that if I have to pay 100% attention, then how much it will make a demand from my audience. So that's when I decided that I'm making life too difficult for my audience. So one of my audiences here told me, coming to your talk is like going for an intellectual workout. People come to, it's exhausting. So that's when I experimented with various things. So I decided I'll make PowerPoints for every one of my talks. But then I made almost 2000 PowerPoints in about 6 months. This was before AI. It is not AI because I just makes PowerPoints now, but not very good. But anyway, but then I realized that for me talks are not just about delivery. It's not that I have a complete scripted structure and I'm going to deliver it. It's also about discovery. Because even if I have some subject prepared, but it's always a way we approach the subject in a new way. We realize something new about the point. So I found that I was almost like imprisoned by the PowerPoint. So once somebody asked Radhanath Maharaj, do you ever use PowerPoints? So Maharaj is sometimes quite humorous. He said that, by Krishna's mercy, I can make powerful points without PowerPoints. So then, so then I decided PowerPoints won't work. Then that's when I discovered this whole system of using a tablet. I could write and draw and explain things. Then I told Radhanath Maharaj about this, Then I've been doing this for about 5 years now. And many people who attend my talks from before and now, they say that now we are able to understand you much better. So then I told this to Radhanath Maharaj, and I told him, what you told me, it was very helpful for me. I came up with this technique, and it's helping me a lot. So Maharaj said, yes, the technique is good, but don't forget the principle. The principle is that you should have concern for your audiences. And that's been very helpful for me. Sometimes I don't have this PowerPoint, I don't have this projection facility. So I still try to think in terms of images and try to help the audience visualize. But the idea is that when I talk about difference, this over here, the difference that we make, it is that sometimes the difference is very visible. Sometimes say on social media now, you put a video and it gets 1 million views. That's a difference. Like you talk and people applaud widely. But what you're talking about is differences in our own vision of what am I trying to do. That I have certain gifts, I have certain opportunities, I'll use those opportunities. But the difference is that am I seeking recognition through what am I doing? Or am I focusing on making a contribution? So now naturally the two are not unrelated. If we make a contribution, we'll also get recognition. But if our focus goes on primarily on gaining recognition, then we will never be satisfied. Because no matter how much recognition we get, then always we will want, somebody else has got more. Or why didn't I get that much? So if we want, in the meaning in bhakti, so the idea is that the river has, where did the metaphor go? Yeah. The river is going toward the ocean, and one river may go through an area where there are only 10,000 people there. And it benefits 10,000 people. Another river may go through an area where there are 10 million people there. It benefits 10 million people. So the river, it also has to go to the ocean. I understand that there is a path to the ocean, and this is my path. So some of us, we may be able to make a huge difference. Some of us may in the visible sense, we make a small difference. But when we have that attitude of contribution, understanding these are the gifts that I have been given, and I'll use them in a mood of service, then we will find contentment in our life. that will we be escaping from the world? No. We come to spiritual places like this, we rejuvenate ourselves, and then we go out, and in our corner of the world, we start making a small difference. We start making at least a small contribution toward making a difference. And that will actually bring a deep sense of meaning and contentment in our life. So bhakti is about both. I'll summarize. Went over a lot of points. I had a particular path in my mind. So I'll explain that path. So is spirituality about escapism? Is it just escaping from the world? So I talked about three main things. This is the framework I should have given right in the beginning. Chit means Chit is consciousness. So let's look at the concept, then some insights, and some takeaway. So what I discussed was that everyone seeks escapism. Everyone seeks escape. The nature of the world is such that the world can get into us and then it will get us. So we need escape. So it depends on what kind of escape are we seeking. We could seek escape through intoxication. We could say seek escape through workaholism or shopaholism or entertainment. Or we could seek escape through meditation, through reading, through reflection, through spirituality. So everybody is seeking escape, which is the escape that helps us to become better. So from that perspective, I talked about how meditation and spirituality offer us the best level of escaping. So this is how everybody, for life can be very frustrating. So for everybody, they need some way to absorb the shocks of life. So spirituality acts as a shock absorber. Then I talked about how spirituality can also become a goal transformer. So how does it become a goal transformer? That was the second part of the class. This is like a funnel so most people will come for the shock absorbing part, but from there a few will move on towards the goal transformer. So within that, I talked about how at one level, if we just get caught in the news, get caught in the news means we get caught in the world. This world is a place of Maya, and that will steal from us any sense of meaning, any sense of agency, and any sense of purpose from our life. And that's how we will feel that what is even the point of living. So too much getting caught in the world, it will actually make us feel powerless. And then that will actually take meaning away from my life. So when we move away from the world, so if we are too much in the world, that will take meaning away from our life, because we'll just feel overwhelmed by it. Then what is the alternative? Through bhakti practices, through spiritual practice, we get a new vision of life. What is that new vision? That I have been given certain gifts, that there is a higher reality, there is a divine, and that divine has given me some gifts, and I can use those gifts in a mood of service. So what is gift to me and gift from me? So now this vision that there is a divine and I have been given some gifts, this is very important for us to understand at our level. And through our spiritual practices, we get that distance from the world. We stop comparing with the world. Otherwise, if you're just comparing, oh, this person has better gifts than me, this person has more gifts than me, this person has more gifts than me, then we feel as if our gifts are worthless. And we can't make much difference. So spirituality gives us the distance. And then I talked about, in spirituality, there's a universal purpose and there is an individual purpose. Like a river going towards the ocean, that's a universal purpose. The river finding its way to go to the ocean and being able to provide sustenance for all the life forms on its path. That is the individual purpose each one of us is going to find. And how do we find that? So this dynamism is called seva. And what is the takeaway for us? We look for these three things. We look for our gifts. How do we bring God into our life? We look for the gifts that we have been given. Then we look for the opportunities we have to utilize those gifts. So if we have musical ability, we can learn music and produce spiritual music. If we have financial resources, we can contribute them for some spiritual humanitarian cause. If we have some time, some talents, we can look for how can I use the gifts I have? What are the opportunities I have? And finally, there's a difference. Difference is not just how much of a difference I make in the world, but it is a difference in my approach. Rather than focusing on how much recognition I get from the world, I focus less on that and I focus on how much of a contribution I can make. So that ethos. I was talking with a close friend who is also a spiritual teacher, and he is very energetic. He gives at least 3-4 talks every day. So I asked him what drives him to give so many talks. So he told me that, I cannot live without speaking. That whether people hear or not, that is not in my control. Whether there's an audience or not, this is my calling. This is how I am true to myself. This is what I have learned. This is what I've experienced. This is what has benefited me. And I want to share that with others. So that mood that I have been given some gifts and I'm going to use those gifts. Whether it makes a difference or not, it is, so that when we focus on making a contribution, I deliberately use the word difference. But what is the difference? See, we all want to make a difference in life. But the point is, sometimes our endeavors may not seem to make a visible difference. And that's why we need to have a different view of how we can make a difference. The difference is not so much in terms of the recognition. It's more in terms of the contribution. That, did I use the opportunities that I had? Did I use the gifts I had? So gifts are more internal, what I have. Opportunities are more external. What are the avenues where I can use those opportunities? So did I do my part? When the river starts to go towards the ocean, the river may have a particular path in mind, but it may go by a different path later. So in this way, each one of us, we are not just here for a form of escapism, we are more here for rejuvenation. So we reconnect with a bigger vision of life, and with that vision of life, we start going back into the world with a spiritual purpose, with the purpose of service, of seva, of contribution. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Any questions or comments that they would like to share?
Sorry, please go ahead. No, please let Eva first and then go ahead. Go.
I want to say more than thank you of the past and how you visualize. Honestly, it's just we learned a lot during this stay in the last few days, but now it's connecting the dots in a very beautiful way. So just I really want to say thank you. Thank you. It's a lot of inspiration and it's really connecting the dots of this experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy to be of service.
Wow, just absolutely amazing. I love your diagrams. Amazing. It makes it very clear. I wanted to understand one of the diagrams where you said that you have steps, then it goes to seeds, and with the guidance. Can you explain that?
Okay.
I think I missed that part, and it's very important in terms of me as a mother.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. So see, in terms of parenting, you could say that love can be expressed in two ways. There's the love that guards, and there's a love that guides. Now, especially when the child is very small, at that time we have to guard. We don't let our child talk with strangers, we don't let the child go out alone. We stand guard by our child. And it's very important at a particular stage in life. At that time, we tell them what steps to take, what steps not to take. So we could use the word spoon feeding. Everything is, when the children are small, that's what we can and we need to do for them. So our guide, in one sense, our role is more in terms of telling them steps, do this, do this. But eventually, they have to live their own life. And when I use the word seeds, that's more in terms of the values that we have given them. With those values, they need to make their decisions in life. And that at that time, we can only guide them. If we try to control them too much, two things can happen. One is that they rebel as soon as they get an opportunity and they get alienated from us, or they submit and they become so over dependent on us that without us they can't function. So we don't want either of those to happen. That's why it's almost like parenting is. Now, I'm very expert at giving parenting advice because I have never been a parent. No. So actually I'm talking more in terms of human psychology as explained from the Bhagavad Gita perspective. Actually doing it is something which is a bigger challenge. But it's almost like the person, if we consider a baby bird in a nest. The baby bird in the nest only moves inside the nest. And the mother bird goes out and brings the food for it. So the baby bird, when it's a baby, it's just moving inside the nest. Then as it grows bigger, maybe it will move around on the branch and the mother is watching. Then it moves around on the tree and the mother or parent is watching. And then it flies a little bit more. So it's almost as if, in our case also with respect to parenting, it's that we need to give them space. And as they grow older and older, we give them more and more space. Now it is possible that the bird may fly away and may never come back. That's life, that's the danger. But the bird who never learns to get out of the nest, that's also another danger. If a predator can come and eat the bird outside, but a predator can come and eat the bird inside also, the nest also. So initially, the guidance is more in terms of steps. Do this, don't do this. But eventually it seeds values. So the idea is that these are the dangers in life. And this is how you need to spot the dangers. And initially the parents will guide the children from the dangers. But eventually the parents have to equip the child to spot the dangers and to deal with the dangers. So we can ensure that there's no alcohol or no drugs in our house so that our kids don't take those things. But then we can't remove them from the world. So that's where the guidance is more in terms of seeds. So it's how fast should that circle expand? The sphere, in Sanskrit the word is kshetra. How should the kshetra expand, very fast or very slow? That depends on the individual. Some children have a greater need for autonomy, but they use it responsibly. Some children either can't cope with that level of autonomy or they can't use it responsibly. Then it may be, the expansion may be very rapid, the expansion may be very relatively gradual. But eventually life means that we need to let them go. So that's why the steps and seeds. Does that make sense?
Perfectly. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the session. I very much like the style delivered. I have a question, if you can elaborate a bit more on the deep concern for others and how does it connect to the individual purpose?
Okay, it's a good question. So how do we have concern for others and how does it connect with our individual purpose? say in any field that we are working in, the Gita talks about these two words, guna and karma. These words can be understood in many different ways, but one of the ways is that there is something that we do which helps us to feel content. That, oh, I feel happy doing this. Now, it's good that we find out something that we feel happy doing it. That is there something I can do something which I will do even if nobody notices it, nobody praises it. This is what I want to do. This is what I meant to do. This is what I love doing. That's one aspect to it. Now there are some areas where we are competent. Competent is where we are objectively good in those things. Not just subjectively feel good about doing it, but I am objectively good. I don't have to be the excellent, I don't have to be the best necessarily, but I am good at doing it. So, if we can find something that is at the intersection of the two, this is the best place where we can make a contribution. Now, I may be content at doing something, but if I am not really competent at doing something, so I may love to hear music. I may like to sing also, but I just don't know how to sing. Then I may feel very happy singing, but nobody else is happy with my singing. Is that it? So, in that case, what happens? Then maybe it's best for me not to make that into my profession, my contribution. Of course, I can improve in that, but there's only so much we can improve. One of the misconceptions that about, say, human nature or human personality is that we are like clay. There's the idea that you can be whoever you want to be. Well, sometimes that is used in the sense that society should not restrict you, that society should give you the space, you can fight against society to express yourself. Well, there's some truth to it, but actually we cannot force ourselves also. So if in a society, say, music is glamorized, and I want to be a great musician, but if I don't have that music ability, if in a society, say, a particular sports is glamorized, so we cannot simply reshape ourselves according to our will entirely. So we are not exactly like clay, we are more like seeds again. So I have to understand what seed I am and then how I can develop that seed. So that's why self-observation is required, as I mentioned. What are the gifts I have? Rather than what are the gifts that I wish I had, or the gifts that would be so great in the world if I had them. But just observe yourself. So we are like seed, so neither can parents force their children into a particular mold, nor can we force ourselves into a particular mold. So it's like you cannot get a mango fruit from an apple seed. So what is the seed I have? What are the particular gifts I have? I observe them and then I try to develop them. So concern for others is about which are the gifts that I have. That is more of my self-observation. That is my being true to my nature. But among the gifts that I have, which can I use in a mood of service with the audience that I am with? So it could be in speaking, it could be in singing, it could be in cooking, it could be in managing, whatever field we are in. So if I am offering something of value, but which is of no value to the audience, then I am not really showing concern for them. So like you mentioned, if I come here and give a talk in Sanskrit, now I may show off my learning of Sanskrit, but I am not benefiting you in any way. So I may enjoy Sanskrit, but if I want to enjoy Sanskrit, I can do it privately. I can find a Sanskrit audience for that. If I am going to come and speak here, so that's where, so what am I competent at? So we can find out the intersection of the two things, and that's where we can express our concern for others in a way that is true to our own nature also. Does that make sense? Thank you. Yeah.
I recognize this in one of the members of this group. Between what you just explained.
Okay. Thank you.
So I just wanted to thank you for the many ways, many things you've taught us today. One is the subject that you delved into was brilliant on its own. But the humility with which you spoke about how you have, like what you have presented, the way you present information to people, concepts, takeaways, insights. I think knowing your backstory as to how it actually emerged from some sort of a limitation, which has now become a gift that is very rare. I don't know of many speakers that do this. It's really helped us see our limitations with reaching our audiences in such a new light, that sometimes our biggest limitation might actually hold the key to our superpower or to something that is going to stand out. So I really appreciate that aspect of your teaching. The concern for people and how Raghunath Maharaj taught you that, and that insight is something that's very sobering, because I think all of us in our zeal, speaking for myself, in my zeal to impart information, I think sometimes I forget to filter it through the lens of what the person needs and how they best consume it. So thank you for that reminder. I think I needed to hear that today. So on so many levels, you have reached our heart, our soul, and our mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Okay, so I'm also conscious that there is another part to the day for those who wanted to go on a tour just around the area. So we will end it here. I just want to again say thank you to His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. I know he's incredibly busy and in demand. It's very kind of him to be here and to deliver what was a fantastic presentation. And as many of you said, it really brought so many different concepts and ideas together as well. I'm sure that's something that we will unpack also as we go through. Thank you very much, and please give a round of applause. And I will hand over the microphone now to Sid just to explain what's coming next.
So just very quickly, for the hike that we've got planned tomorrow, Anmol has asked me to give you this declaration that you need to sign in order to do the hike. It's a bit scary. Yeah, happy to do the tour as well. Yeah, sure. So I just need to.
If this pleases you, this is from Krishna. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay.
It's a journal. It's we've all enjoyed it. You will enjoy it because every page has a QR code you can scan and you get a verse from the Bhagavad Gita to guide you for the day. But it's really something we've all enjoyed. Really hope that it brings you.
Thank you so much. Amazing.
Going to start. Okay, who's going on the tour? Just put your hands. Is it just Maha and Avantika as well? Maris as well. Okay.
There were 4 of us who were put up.
Yeah, Nital put up his hand as well. Yeah. Okay, that's okay. Okay, fine. So as soon as you've done sign the form, that would be much appreciated. Yeah. Obviously, Anmol said that the form is a bit scary.